Looking at the data further, one thing that we like to do, there's a couple of new people on the call today. So we, the market data from Treb, the news articles, these are all good, but nobody's actually tracking prices on a property type on a month-to-month basis by neighborhood. We know that we really need good granular data to understand where to buy and where to invest. Saying invest in Toronto means very little. Like, this is a city of almost 6 million people, the GTA. Buying in the GTA can mean buying a $400,000 condo. It can be buying a $10 million property. Which one should you be buying, right? So to really understand that, we look at the data at the neighborhood by neighborhood level, and this is something that we do here at Volition Properties. You go to the next slide.
Immediately took a picture of you. Okay.
So these are the neighborhoods that we have broken down. These are the TREB neighborhoods, so the Toronto Real Estate Board neighborhoods. Next slide. And this is what we're seeing for downtown single-family detached homes. So, you can see roughly kind of in the, let's say, February, March, April, some minor leveling off or pausing of the market. This is, when COVID was first coming on and everybody was panicking. Nobody really knew what it meant. Nobody knew how long we'd be isolated for. We're all just sitting in our houses twiddling our thumbs. And so you do see a bit of that reflected here, kind of through March, April, May. Many of the neighborhoods, had a very minor price correction. Some of them nothing, some of them flat. But that was it. Like, that's really all we saw. And overall, in the trend of this, it hardly affected the overall movement of the market. That quickly recovered through June, July, August, where we saw downtown single-family detached homes start to pick up again. And in many neighborhoods, there was no change, right? Like, if we look at EO3 or W01, these are kind of neighborhoods like Plater Estates or like Little Italy on the west side. Practically no change in those neighborhoods. They were unaffected by COVID. So contrast this to kind of outside of the city, where we look on a neighborhood by neighborhood basis as well. If you go to the next slide, this is like the Richmond Hills, Markhams, Willowdales, like just outside of the core. We saw in 2017, we saw this big bump. There's a big correction in some of these places. Started to recover through mid to late 2019, and then again you can see this COVID bump, or COVID dip, I'll call it, that happened March, April, May, where those prices came down, and then again it's like COVID never happened. You could have almost drawn a line right across that bump to even that out. Now, the one thing that I will call out here is you can see that the uptown velocity of these the curve here is starting to taper off. It's not continuing on as sharp an upward trajectory as the downtown core, which is very interesting for us to see. With all the headlines being around people leaving the Toronto core, I would have expected the data to support that. I would have expected to see homes, big homes in the suburbs, going up in price faster than the downtown core, but that just hasn't been the reality. And I think that's where the headlines have been really misleading. The data just doesn't show it. The data is showing people leaving condos and going to houses, but those houses are in Toronto. They're not even in Willowdale, right? That people aren't going that far away. They're going maybe 10, 15 minutes from their condo to a neighborhood, but they're not going hours or cities away. We're just, the data is just not showing that right now. And this exactly what we were saying, like, we are seeing an exit from condos, and now it's not a mass exodus because this has not dropped. It's maybe like a 10% change here, but we see condo prices being affected. And this was, I think, ripe for some correction. We know that things like new construction, the new construction per square foot costs have been extraordinarily high through kind of late 2018 into 2019. So, you know, this was, if we're talking about overvaluation, we probably saw a lot more overvaluation in the condo market. Do I expect to see this continue down? Probably for at least a couple more months. I don't think that you know, the fundamental pushing, I shouldn't call it fundamental, but the influencer pushing this down, which is COVID right now, is going to change drastically in the next couple of months. If vaccines and stuff like that come through, it's still going to be a while before normality returns. So I think that people will continue to want a little more space in the short term. But I do expect, you know, when I look back at this chart in 5 years from now, I think this will just be a blip again. Because I think the fundamentals of people for the last 100 years moving from rural areas into urban areas, that hasn't fundamentally changed.